Welcome to Leading Beyond Limits, the podcast where we explore the extraordinary journeys and insights of remarkable leaders who have pushed the boundaries of what's possible. Your host, Angel Radcliffe, who is a digital transformation leader, author, speaker, and financial educator, will lead each episode and dive deep into the stories, strategies, and philosophies that have empowered these exceptional individuals to lead, inspire, and achieve beyond the ordinary. We're about to embark on a journey of discovery and inspiration, and together, we'll learn what it takes to lead beyond limits. So grab your cape, or at least your favorite coffee mug, because we're about to unravel the extraordinary tales of trailblazers who've turned impossible into I'm possible. Let's get started.
TianEn, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Angel.
I am so excited to have you on and discuss a topic that is not only for leaders, but all people in the workplace of mastering the ask. And asking for something at work sometimes can be a bit difficult. It can be nervous. Sometimes we're fearful, but today you're going to share with us how people can overcome that and really get what they want out of the career workplace. So I want to start off by saying congratulations. You are an upcoming author. You have a book that's coming out called Closed Mouths Don't Get Fed: The Recipe of Asking and Getting What You Want in the Workplace. So I know it is very difficult to work on your professional goals and personal goals at the same time. So huge congratulations. And just want to start off by letting you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you, and then we'll get into the purpose of your book.
Thank you so much, Angel. And I'm just happy to be here. So a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Dallas. I still live in Dallas with my husband and 4 young sons. I also do consulting, been in the consulting world for my entire career for over 12 years at this point, and really see myself grow through this journey and push me to get out of my comfort zone, push me to want to learn more and just grow as much as possible. And a lot of it came through asking. And so, as you mentioned, I have this book coming out, and it really leverages my career and the lessons I've learned to accelerate, to progress, to just maximize opportunities and going after any and everything possible, and do it fearlessly and curiously.
That is so true. And one of the things I do want to call out is you and I know each other from the workplace. And I specifically remember myself transitioning careers and transitioning into consulting and just seeing you be there for so many people as far as helping people navigate the choices they were making for their projects, for their careers, maybe even for their personal lives. And you gave such great advice to so many people, including myself, and I was like, gosh, she is awesome. So I'm excited to see the book and just to see the many people whose lives will be impacted and changed by understanding that you can really move forward in your career and achieve the goals that you want just by asking for the help that you need or asking for some support for those goals that you set in place. When we talk about the ask, like some people think that it's about more money or a promotion. I want you to dig deeper and let us know, like, what does that ask mean in the context of career advancement? What are the possibilities, or what have you seen in your career?
So when I talk about the ask, it could be a very wide range of things. Like you said, it could be the promotion, the raises, but more importantly, it's the day-to-day activities that you may need support with, whether you need additional time to get a task done, or if you need specific information to help your job move a little bit smoother, or to help understand the bigger picture of your role compared to the entire team. The ask can also be personal. If you need to take time off to take care of your loved ones, sometimes it's an ask or more of a tell for that, because, hey, I have a responsibility. My husband needs to go to the hospital to get a surgery done. I've had times where certain individuals made me fearful of asking, or made it feel like I couldn't ask, but then I still asked anyways because it was either something I really needed for my job or for my personal life. or it was something that would help benefit the team. So I leveraged my position to help ask and push for others too. And then also just basic curiosity. To the simplest form, when you ask, it's all about just being curious and looking for an answer. So however way you want to define that, asking is just as simple as opening your mouth and just getting the thoughts out of your head and just working through that, let's say through that process to get to an answer that you need, or even an answer you didn't realize you needed at the time. But the more you had a dialogue with someone, you find out like, hey, this is actually more than what I expected and exactly the direction I needed to know so I can make the next step as far as my work goes, or even as far as my career goes.
Those are excellent points. And I want to ask you if there's a specific technique or strategy in making an effective ask to get what you want, because I feel like communication is always key in how you say things. But do you have any examples that you can share? Maybe that an ask that someone has come to you with, or maybe an ask that you went to someone else with?
One of the biggest examples I have are the times when I was trying to get promoted. A lot of times, I guess the running joke is that every time I've had a kid, I've gotten promoted right after. And so it's kind of funny to say that because having a kid, you're not working the full fiscal year. You're taking a certain amount of time off and then you jump back in and try to adjust to the new life. But right when I had my second child, I came back to work, jumped on a project in the March timeframe, and our fiscal year usually ends in August, and talent discussions usually happen in the July, August timeframe. So not much time to show that you can make an impact, but I was being very ambitious. I was like, all right, worst thing that can happen, we say we're going after the promotion. If I don't get it, then at least they know that I'm striving for that. So when I joined the project as a test architect to go into the test team, come up with a better strategy, find the gaps, figure out a better strategy for efficiencies and better testing practices. And so basic consultant level role. But once I understood what was required of me, I went to my leader at the time and I asked, hey, I want to go for promotion this fiscal year. What can I do to show you and demonstrate that I can perform at the manager level? And pretty much he gave me his role. He was the delivery lead on the project. And so he gave me certain delivery lead responsibilities, such as invoicing, such as onboarding, some of the systematical admin tools that we had to do with data protection or onboarding trainings that had to be submitted. So there were a lot of things that came out of it. So my role evolved into more of a test lead. So we grew the team from 35 to 70 individuals. So there was a lot of onboarding that was happening and I was managing the whole process. Then also slash running as a delivery lead or a miniature delivery lead to take some things off of his plate. And I did regular check-ins because for me, if I'm trying to strive for this goal in 3 months to show like, hey, I can step up and I can step up quickly, I needed to do regular check-ins. So the first type of questioning I was asking him was, can I get your support for promotion? But then to get the continuous feedback, how am I doing? Am I hitting the target? Am I off? What else can I do to demonstrate that I am ready for manager level? So it was really striving type of questioning that I was asking. And then by the end of that project, I got his support. I also got his leadership support, so his boss support, and then a couple other managing directors confirmation that yes, we will support you for promotion. And so that's one way of showing it, but there's so many examples, and I guarantee you we can go through just our last week, and I can tell you some of the asks that I was doing in a different setting.
Those are great tips. And something that you said was like, the worst answer can be no. And that's something that I share with my mentees all the time. Like, hey, just ask the question. The worst that can happen is no, but at least you're putting yourself out there on the radar to say, like, you want to be promoted or to say that you want more responsibility. Because if no one knows, there's no one there to support you or advocate for you.
Exactly. Yeah,
Any tips?
that is something that was said to me around the same tip that you give your mentees. But then also the problem I see a lot of times, we as individuals are usually the first person to tell ourselves no versus giving a chance to get into the atmosphere and allow someone to tell us yes or no. So there's a lot of internal thinking process that we have to shift from and just look at the possibilities versus the negative consequences or the negative effects that could come from asking.
And Tiana, you have a chapter in your book actually called The Fear of Asking. And anyone that has any type of question, it can be something so small, so simple. Most people are afraid. And I try to dig deeper and trying to understand, like, why are you afraid to just ask a question? Like, it's either yes or it's no. So for example, I'm working with someone who is rolling off and they're looking for another project. And I said, why don't you just ask our delivery lead if there's something else that they're working on? And they said, well, I'm scared. And I said, what are you scared of? I'm scared that they're gonna say no. Well, it's either yes or no. I don't understand that. Maybe because I've sort of outgrown that phase of operating in fear. But in the chapter of your book, you start off and you say there comes a time or a point in life where we must decide whether we want to live in our fears or live out our dreams. So, a question that I have for you is like, what advice can you give for someone to overcome that fear and hesitation?
So when it comes to the fear of asking, a lot of times we internalize that as a fear versus stepping into the newness of an opportunity. So we have to shift that perspective, like I mentioned, on just saying, "Oh, what's the worst that can happen? Oh, let me list all the worst options in my head," versus saying, "Hey, what if I did ask? Okay, maybe I can get the right answer or some they can point me into the right direction." But then also it's accepting that it is a fear, but working through it, continuing to push past that fear and just saying, "Hey, it's just this little voice in my head that's trying to protect me in some form or fashion because of maybe there was something that happened in my past that created this." And we have to spend some of that internal time to identify that. But just at the surface level, hey, recognizing that this is a fear, accepting it, but then saying, hey, I'm courageous enough to still ask. I'm still courageous enough to put my thoughts out there or to speak up in the meetings or to ask someone to be a mentor and then to work through it. You know, you do not have to do this alone because trust and believe, I did not do any of this by myself. I had a lot of people that I talked through all my fears with, and I had doubts. Even my last promotion, I was like, "Hey," so my last promotion to senior manager, my thought process was, "Hey, I have this baby, then I'm gonna work a whole nother year to prove myself that I'm worthy to make it to senior manager." My people lead, she told me, no, we're gonna go after it now. You don't have to work a whole nother year. You're already doing a lot of things now, and you have a strong story year over year that should be reflected in your role. And I was like, huh, okay. So it's because she believed in me, and this is where a lot of the mentors come into play, mentors and coaches because she believed in me, I started to believe that, hey, yes, I can go after it. And then like if I do get no or rejected, then at least I know where I stand or what was a shortcoming or if I made the short list or the long list, what to do the next round to make it a shoe in for the next promotion. Thankfully, because I had a lot of good support, I had a lot of sponsors at the table, I did get the promotion to senior manager off the first try.
Those are really great points. And something that I wanted to call out is what I've seen in my career journey as so many people will only share the great things that have happened in their career. No one likes to be transparent. No one likes to talk about the tough times or the road that it took to get there. And what you're doing is you're sharing those details through your book, through your experiences, throughout your speaking engagements, and letting people know, like, this was not easy for me. These are the steps that I've taken to move ahead, and these are some strategies that you can take in and do the same. In your book, you mentioned that people love to brag about the end results, but very rarely tell the story of what it took to get there. And I was like, what? She's hitting the nail on the head, because I say that all the time. Like, from coming out of college until where I am now, the last 17 years, I've never found one leader who was super transparent. And that was something that I wanted to do differently. Like, in my journey, my career journey, I said, I'm going to share the good, the bad, and the ugly, because when you share those bad things, then you're showing someone those lessons learned and how they can do it differently. And I always try to understand why people don't want to share the hard times or share the times in which they needed to be resilient. They make it seem like the road was just so easy. So, in your journey and moving into leadership, have you found those transparent leaders? And, or I don't know if you've had the same experiences to making you want to sort of be this transparent leader. If you can give us some insights there.
I was very fortunate where I did have leaders from the very beginning be transparent, but I think it also became I think it was also reciprocated because I was very transparent from the very beginning. When I started at Accenture, I joined my first project. A month later, I found I was pregnant with my first son. So all of this facade and masking went away immediately because I had to make this very personal decision around, do I tell people I'm pregnant or do I just hold out and they just find out? And I made the very conscious decision maybe a week after to tell my manager that I was pregnant, hoping to get support throughout my pregnancy. And I had a fear at that time too. I was scared. I was like, okay, I'm 23 years old. I have to tell these people I got to use their benefits. I got to take time off. How is this supposed to work in the world of consulting? What am I going to do when I come back? Do I have to hit the road and travel every week? There were a lot of burning questions I had, and thankfully, because my test lead, my manager at the time, she also was a mother of two kids, and she answered every single question I had. I had just all these burning questions because I was a first-time mother. I didn't know what to do or how to handle it, how to flex time for appointments, and she explained all of that to me. And that made me very comfortable with showing up as myself. And I carry that same attitude to with other people that I work with, whether it's my peers or my direct reports, because I want them to feel comfortable and show up at their best, knowing that they can ask those burning questions, knowing that they can get the support that should be there. And I'm grateful to reflect that because that was the same type of leadership that I was afforded. I've been very fortunate to have great leaders around me on different projects within my company to lead me the way and to be really good role models of how I wanted to show up as a leader. So I think my experience is a little bit different from yours in a positive way, Angel. And I'm happy to show up as a good role model for others because I want people to be successful, especially when they're working with me. I want us to all win together in the short term and the long term.
I love that. And, most people don't have that same mindset where they're looking out for the entire team or wanting everyone to win. Some people are very self centered in their leadership journey. So I appreciate you sharing that and just being the person you are. One thing that I do want to get into is understanding the timing of the ask, because I think that some people they get a little nervous. I know we talked about fear a little bit earlier, but I think some people get a bit nervous because they're not sure of the right timing to go in for the ask. And I always think there's never going to be like a perfect timing. Like it can be perfect timing for you, but bad for the person you're going to ask, or vice versa. So, do you have any advice around identifying the right moment to go in with your ask?
So there's a couple things you have to be cognizant of. And first off, you got to be cognizant of your department or what is happening as far as business goals and your goals, and seeing like, all right, can this work out? But then also look at the macro level of the company. So one of the things that I had to realize when I went after one of my asks for a raise, I didn't realize it at the time, but I just put the ask out there. So it was right after I got promoted to manager. I thought my salary would be auto corrected, and I did get a really nice bump in the raise, but in the salary, but it did not get me to where I was in fully in line with my peers. And so after my internal manager told me about my promotion, I asked the question. I was like, is there any wiggle room in the salary? And he told me, no, not at the time. We just paid out all of the money pool for the raises, the bonuses, all of that. And that wasn't top of mind for me. I was more concerned about me versus the macro level of, hey, literally everyone just got their raises and bonuses. I was just looking out for me. So you got to also make sure what you're asking and what you're going after is in line and timing with the bigger corporate setting. And so I ended up waiting, let's say about 3 or 4 months, and I posed the ask again to the same leader, but then also went to a different leader who was a step higher than my people lead. And I was like, all right, let me try to tackle this a couple different ways. And maybe someone will have some other answers for me. And so by doing that, I did get better answers. I didn't get a direct no. I did get some more insight of where the corporate landscape was. And then he gave me more insight on, all right, we can work something out on the salary. So you have to be aware of not just what you want, but what is also happening in the corporate setting, so you can understand, will this get me closer to a yes or a no, but then you get more answers.
That makes so much sense. And as I was saying before, there's never going to be like a right timing, but it definitely helps to understand like what's happening in your work environment, your team, your project, depending on the industry you work in. And as you mentioned, just knowing the people that you're going to be speaking to as well. Have you seen, like in your experience, so either this can be from yourself or with your mentees, have you seen any sort of creative or compelling ways, strategies that people have come up with for an ask?
I always go back to mine just because they're my lived experiences.
Mhm.
So back in 2018, I found out about this organization called Information Technology Senior Management Forum through one of our other colleagues. She was the relationship manager for our diverse partnerships. And I showed up to this event called the Emerge Forum, which was specifically for women leaders to talk about different topics, whether it's a technology or for that specific one, they were also talking about negotiating, not leaving money on the table, and some other topics. And just a little bit background about this organization, their acronym is called ITSMF. They focus on the development and advancement of Black senior tech leaders. And when I went to this first meeting, I didn't realize what it was about, but I was very much in awe of all of the greatness, all of the intellect, the finesse, the care of all of these leaders, and I knew I needed to be a part of it. So they had a slide about the Emerge Academy. It was a 10-month long training or leadership development program. And I knew I needed it as a newly promoted manager. So my creative ask around this was, I was like, all right, I don't know how this is going to work, I don't know if I'm gonna get a yes or a no with my application. I don't even know how I'm gonna pay for it, but I'm gonna go after it because it was something I truly felt that I needed. So I was like, let me put the application in. I did the application within 2 or 3 days of that event. Then I also drafted an email to my senior leader saying that I applied for this leadership program. It cost, I think at the time it was about $6,000 or $7,000 plus travel to 5 cities. And then I also put in the external training request. So I don't know, if my senior leader was also my training approver, but I tackled it in, different, like so many different ways to make sure that I was checking the boxes off in so many ways. So submitted the training request, sent the email. I think I got one response back saying, can you send me the brochure or can you give me additional information about the organization? And so I got the information from ITSMF, emailed that back. I think within a week or two, I got approval for the entire training plus the travel, which is phenomenal. I would say that was upwards of $20,000 because of all of the travel to the different cities. But I just dove into it. I didn't hesitate when it was something that was so urgent. When you put an urgency on it, you will figure it out as you go. And you may ask the wrong questions, but it doesn't stop you. And then you figure out how to rephrase the question or go to the right person. Maybe you went to this one leader, but they are not the actual approver for the training. And then you figure out, oh, I need to go to this person. Then you figure out, like, okay, I'll send the same email. Let me reread it and tighten it up and make sure I cover all my points and send it to the right leader to get you closer to that yes. So I would say that was pretty creative because I didn't realize how much training budget we truly had or how to use training budget. And so I was just going after it. And I think that's what makes the most creative ones is taking a leap of faith.
Right. And taking the leap of faith when you don't really know like the outcome. I was going to ask you if you've seen any mistakes that people made when going in for a ask, but I don't necessarily think anything can be a mistake. But as you mentioned, being creative, it doesn't necessarily have to always be something like elaborate. It can just be your unique way of going in for the ask. Now, let's say you go in for the ask and you don't receive an immediate response. You don't necessarily get what you want right then and there. What's the way that you propose for the individual to follow up?
So there's a few different ways to follow up depending on how much time you have for this ask. So let's say a lot of us are trying to find projects or our next role. There's a sense of urgency because you don't want to sit on the bench for too long. And so for something like that, that is fairly urgent, I would say follow up every couple of days because you really got to get a response and move to the next role or figure out who else can give you a yes for that. But if you have a little bit of a runway, let's say it's something that you're trying to get accomplished in the next 3 to 4 months, I would say follow up maybe once a week, every other week. You have to gauge that based on how urgent. Is it immediate? Is it urgent? Is it something that is holding up my work from getting it accomplished? So depending on what it is, you have to gauge it. So you can easily follow up by email or using Teams to send a quick ping or in the chat window, or actually just pick up the phone, especially if it's urgent, or schedule a meeting instead of if you're getting too many replies back and forth, at a certain point you have to say, hey, let's schedule a quick 10-15 minute call to resolve this or to get an answer. So depending on your comfort level, but then also if it's urgent, you got to step out that comfort because you got to get that answer a lot quicker.
I know you mentioned the bench, and I know some people listening may not be familiar, but that's in our world of consulting. For the people that are like, what is she talking about, a bench? But no, when you're thinking about the follow-up, And I think you and I have both been through it where you don't hear back from someone and it's critical. At what point do you pull in your network or you pull in someone higher up to help you with that ask?
That's a good question. So in the consulting world, the answer is always it depends. But I would say if your senior leader has a direct connection to someone, I would say, hey, activate it immediately. Say, hey, I reached out to John Doe and he didn't respond back. Could you touch base with them so I can see if this role is still open or if there's an opportunity that I can help with? So I prefer to bring in my network a lot sooner. Unfortunately, I see a lot of people reach out to the network when it's a little too late. And that's a little frustrating because you expect your leader to drop everything and to start out a lifeline while they're still trying to carry on their load. And that's not fair. So I would say activate your network a lot sooner just because it gives them a runway to make moves or to adjust their schedule if it's something immediate or if they know like, hey, I need your help within the next 2 weeks, and then they can prioritize you in the right fashion to make sure you get the attention and the answers you need.
Great advice. And we've had such a fluid conversation around the ask. There's so many more questions I have on my list. So I'm excited for few months we'll have you back on and really do more of a deep dive. So I definitely want to extend my gratitude for you taking the time to join us on the show today. I want to get into some exciting news. As I mentioned at the very beginning of the show, your book that will be coming out very soon. So if you can share with us the exact date, details, and where we'll be able to find your book.
Yes, so my book will be available starting early June. The book is called Closed Mouths Don't Get Fed, the recipe for asking and getting what you want in the workplace. You'll be able to find it on Amazon and also on my website. If you order it through my website, I will sign the book personally and give a great note. And my website is TianEnStephenson.com. And then you can also follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, and also LinkedIn. If you type in TianEn Stephenson, you'll be able to find me, or my handle is Ask TianEn. So I'm definitely excited for this new space and new opportunity to help people through my book. And it's exactly the lessons that I've learned through my career. So it's been phenomenal so far to just see how much of an impact I've had already.
And we will post your website and the show notes so people can easily find that. And your handle, Ask Tianen. I love that. That is right on time for the book. And I just have one last question for you as we close out the show.
All right.
In your journey as a leader or a mentor, what is one piece of timeless advice or lesson that you've learned that you can share with our listeners?
The go-to I have is closed mouths don't get fed. Simple as that. You got to open your mouth if you want to get people to support you. And just so people know what you want and need in your life and in your career.
Thank you for tuning into another inspiring episode of Leading Beyond Limits. If you enjoyed today's conversation and want to hear more from our incredible guests, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us. And if you have a remarkable leader in mind who you'd like to hear on our show or any questions and comments, feel free to reach out to us. You can find our contact information in the show notes. Remember, leadership knows no bounds, and with the right insights and determination, you too can lead beyond limits. Until next time, keep reaching for the stars and leading with purpose.